Biollante. This monster was the first of many things for this era of kaiju movies. The first to appear in the Heisei era, the first kaiju to be plant-based, and the first monster, at least to my knowledge, that was derived from both the cells of a plant, more specifically a rose, Godzilla himself, and the DNA of a dead woman. Biollante has only been in one Godzilla movie, but the monster has still gone on to gain a popularity amongst kaiju fans for her unique design and backstory, and went on to be an OP character in the 2007 game Godzilla Unleashed. But could this kaiju make a return to the Godzilla series? More specifically, the MonsterVerse. If so, what would need to be changed in order to make it fit? Well, I'm your host Alistair, and let's find out if Biollante could work in the MonsterVerse. Let's get to it. Welcome back. Before we delve into analysing how Biollante could fit into the MonsterVerse, let's take a look at this creature's origin, for those who might not be familiar with this plantaceous beast. Taking place in the aftermath of Godzilla's attack on Tokyo in 1984, the Titan cells are discovered and sent to the Seradia Institute of Technology and Science. Here, Godzilla's cells are merged with that of a plant in hopes of transforming the Seradia Desert into an oasis, ending their dependency on oil wells. At the forefront of the operation was Japanese scientist Dr. Genshiro Shiragami and his daughter, Erika. However, a terrorist bombing destroyed the lab, killing the scientist's daughter and ruining most of the Godzilla cells. When returning to Japan, Shiragami carelessly merged some of Erika's cells with that of a rose, her favorite flower, in an attempt to preserve her soul. However, an eruption from Mount Mihara destroys the plants, and the Doctor is forced to combine them with Godzilla's cells, striving to immortalize them. Although seemingly overnight, the cells have mutated the rose into something horrifying, a plant-like organism which is named Biollante by Shiragami, which escapes and makes its way to Lake Ashi to continue growing. During this time, Godzilla is released by a faction of bio-major terrorists, and he begins to make his way towards the nearest nuclear power plant, but is distracted by the sound of something wailing in the distance, the haunting cries of Biollante. Godzilla approaches the lake and engages in combat with the early form of Biollante, who was overpowered quickly, seemingly being killed. But it's found out that her body simply transformed into millions of spores and that she is in fact immortal. When Godzilla and Biollante would next meet, she would reveal herself in a brand new form, taking a much more crocodilian-like physique and taking on attributes shared with the King of the Monsters himself, appearing much larger with dozens of tendrils and new abilities that give it a heightened advantage in combat. This battle was brutal, and Biollante almost completely engulfed Godzilla in her mouth, but she was critically wounded when Godzilla fired his atomic breath directly into her mouth. Succumbing to her wounds, Biollante split apart into millions of glowing spores, which rose up into the sky, freeing Erika's soul, letting her finally find peace. Biollante was the first original kaiju to be seen in the Heisei series, and she does not disappoint, becoming iconic for her unique design and the fact the film she stars in is widely regarded as one of the best Godzilla films by fans. But to see how she could translate to the MonsterVerse, let's do a monster breakdown. Biollante stands at a height of 85 meters during her rose stage of life and weighed 80,000 tons. At this stage, Biollante doesn't have too many offensive abilities. The only methods of attack are tendrils. With these tendrils, she can grapple and suffocate any kaiju she comes in contact with, and can immobilizing them, giving her a temporary advantage. Corrosive sap. Each tendril has the ability to shoot corrosive sap, which can burn and melt skin, as well as blind any enemy it comes in contact with. Although Biollante isn't a master of defense, since because of its plant-like body, it's easily destroyed by Godzilla's super hot atomic breath, and with no legs, she's unable to flee from a fight, although when she's obliterated in combat, she is able to transform herself into millions of spores, which can enter the atmosphere and reform at a different time and different location, essentially making her immortal. Biollante is much more effective at combat in her second phase of life. At this form, she stands at a height of 120 meters, weighing approximately 200,000 tons, being the largest kaiju Godzilla had ever faced up to that point. Now sporting regeneration, which is demonstrated when she regrows part of her head after it was destroyed by Godzilla's atomic breath. Spear tendrils. In her final form, some of her tendrils resemble spears and are capable of piercing Godzilla's skin with ease, causing extreme pain and temporarily immobilizing the king of the monsters. Agility. In this new form, Biollante has the ability to move around with ease as her roots have transformed into appendages, allowing her to exceed in battle. Corrosive blast. Like the corrosive sap, Biollante's final form can now shoot this liquid from her mouth in an even greater quantity, severely hurting Godzilla. Now that's all there is you really need to know about the kaiju itself. Now let's delve into whether she could work in the MonsterVerse. There are a few hints in the series that actually point towards Biollante making its grand entrance into the MonsterVerse, one of which goes all the way back to 2019 in Godzilla King of the Monsters. Remember this newspaper clipping from the credits stating mankind is creating a mechanized giant and genetically modified titans of their own? Whilst Mechagodzilla came true in Godzilla vs. Kong, the film doesn't really delve deep enough into what the genetically modified titans could be. Since Biollante is a genetically modified plant, the film could very well be giving fans a little wink, hinting that Biollante could return in the future. This is also backed up by the fact the director of King of the Monsters, Michael Dougherty, stated that if he were to return to the series, he would have Biollante as the main antagonist. But could it work? Well, in my opinion, Biollante is one of the best classic monsters that you could have return and have it be practically unaltered. The MonsterVerse is all about mankind attempting to control nature, and there's nothing more natural than plant life. Having mankind attempt to mess with Mother Nature and change it for their own selfish gain would be perfect for a film that explores grief, arrogance, loss, and how scientific experiments can backfire without regulation. At the end of King of the Monsters, it's said that Behemoth is actually restoring life in the Amazon rainforest, as the creature's radiation causes rapid growth effects amongst the plant life. Perhaps Monarch could be experimenting with the plant life that has been grown in these regions, in an attempt to undo the damages caused by humanity's mass deforestation. This would directly contrast the original story, where the Saradia government were attempting to turn the desert into fertile land for their own capitalistic gain. But do I think it'll happen? There's plenty of hints telling us Biollante can return, and the MonsterVerse's setting and universe is ripe for exploring the kaiju. But the unfortunate truth is, it's a fairly obscure titan. If you're not a hardcore Godzilla fan, I wouldn't be surprised if you hadn't heard of Biollante. Perhaps instead of a full film centered around Godzilla and Biollante, she could instead feature as a new unknown ferocious, carnivorous plant life found in the Hollow Earth, standing as a mere cameo for lovers of the classic series. And this future film could be anything from Godzilla 3, Son of Kong, or Godzilla vs. Kong 2. There's definitely space to at least homage this classic titan one way or another. But in my opinion, it's unlikely that we'll see Biollante appear as a title character in the MonsterVerse. But do you think Biollante would fit in the MonsterVerse? And if so, how would you have her feature in your own Godzilla film? Let us know in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this video, then leave a like because it helps this video reach even more fans. Don't forget to subscribe and stomp that notification button to become a resident of DangerVille today. I've been Alistair, and we'll see you residents in the next one.